So in this video, we're going to do some bullion knots. You can see I already have some in place there to show you what they look like. So bullion knots can be a little bit tricky, a little bit finicky to get used to, but once you do, they're a really nice stitch to do. So I'm starting off, I'm just going to come up randomly in a point here. I'm with 3 strands in a number 7 embroidery needle, so I'm using 3 strands here. But as with any of these stitches, you can use however many strands you like. It just depends how kind of big and thick you want your bullion knots to be. So I've come up at this point. I'm going to go down a little bit further on, and this is how long I want my knot to be. So between this point and where my needle is, that's roughly how big I want my knot to be. So I'm going to go down there. You're going to leave a loop of thread. You're not going to pull that all the way through. Leave a loop of thread on the top of the fabric and come up again, bring your needle up again at that beginning point up there. Okay. So right where the thread is coming out of at that first point. I'm not going to pull the needle all the way through, just leave it kind of sitting in the fabric there. And then what you're going to do, you're going to take the thread that's coming from that point and you're going to twist it around the needle a couple of times. Okay, you don't want them to be overlapping, just sitting nicely together there. And you want, you see if I push them down together, how big they are there should be the same kind of distance between those 2 points. Okay, so that's how big you want your knot to be. That's the size of your knot. Now, you want to take your index finger and your thumb and just hold on to those wraps on the needle. Just make sure they're staying in place. You don't need to hold them too tight, or it might be a bit difficult to pull the needle and thread through. You're holding on to them just as you pull that needle and thread in, and just make sure they're sitting nicely together there. Just playing with my pushing them down with my needle there. And they should be sitting in place nicely when you go down again at that end point of your knot. So I'll just show you that again there. I'm going to come up at this point over here and down a little bit further on. And again, you're leaving a loop on the top and coming up again at that beginning point, not pulling all the way through, just leaving your needle sitting in the fabric there. And of course, make sure your thread isn't twisted before you start to wrap around the needle a few times. And again, just holding those twists in place, not too tight. You still want to be able to bring your needle and thread through. And if you notice, when I almost have that through, I'm going to pull down in the direction that my bottom point is. Okay, so just use your needle just to make sure those twists are sitting nicely in there, and then down again at that bottom point of your knot, just in there like that. Okay, so give those bullion knots a go. Hopefully you get the hang of them soon enough, but they can be a little bit tricky at first, so just be patient with yourself. And yeah, hopefully you get on all right with them. And that's your bullion knots.